we're on Fisher Island, took the ferry across. We get to the boat's bow in. So we're going to need to float the table that's on the aft deck around to the dock and pull it out. See how this works for us. Oh, it's not bad at all. I got it if you want to go inside. I don't think I've ever done this before. Floated the table off the dock. Okay, you want to swing all the way around? Or? Okay, well, we made it past the floating incident. We got the table in the truck, as you saw. Now we have it back in the shop, and we're going to redo the top. As you can see, it's got a nice kind of faux vinyl finish to the top of it. This isn't real wood. This is like a sticker that's put on. What the customer wants is basically for us to make this part of the table square, then to have two folding leaves that go open like this and make the table larger. As you can see, there's no real room for anybody to sit along the side of the table and actually be close to it. So with the folding leaves, that will allow them to have chairs all the way around it. So we have to retrofit a couple of things, mainly these catches, but you can see it opens up to this nice box on the inside. But there's several things we'll have to change. These hinges are actually attached to the outside of the box. We're going to have to attach them over here to the inside. And it only has one hydraulic arm on it. We're going to put two on it. So for retrofitting the inside would basically be the hinges, two hydraulics. Making new tops, fold out leaves, scope hinges, and all of that stuff. I'll show you as we go along. This is the start of it. Okay, so right now I'm getting ready to start putting some fiberglass on these blocks because they're just glued on with WES system, which is probably strong enough, but we wrap them with a little bit of glass. Also give us a little bit smoother area instead of having the wood. When we paint the wood, instead of having grain and everything, we'll have a nice hard surface. So I've done plastic the inside of the box. I can do all my layout work right in there. Just makes it a little bit cleaner to do the work in here and not all over the benches. Anytime you're doing glass work, you want to make sure that all the mat is the same color. You try to get all the white out of the mat. It's all saturated with the epoxy. And then this is already cut to lay in there perfect. Okay, now there's plenty of liquid in that, so I can lay the mat right over the top, and that's what makes it a little nicer to paint and clean up. The mat gives you a little bit more flexibility. Alright, so we got the blocks for the hinges all glassed in, got them all ground. And today we're putting all fair on them because what I want to do is paint them. And we're just kind of mushing the all fair all over the whole thing, and that'll allow us to be able to block them in and get them all nice and pretty. Now I got one other thing I want to show you. Okay, so we have this hinge put in. Now if you'll notice, I left a little bit of a gap on each side. So when I made my jig, I put just a piece of mica on each side, which is going to allow for the paint. So this is what it looks like cut out. You can see that we're good. We're on in our wood on every one on this block that we put on. So this is the next process. So we get them all cut out like this, then we can prime this whole thing. We'll have room for the paint plus a little bit extra. Over here we have the jig that I made up, which is going to cut it out. This has already been cut out for one level. We're going to cut the final level out. And on this one, it's completed. So I'm just going to show you how we did it on the last one. We'll do the last little depth, and we'll go from there. All right, so here's the two top panels. This is when the leaves are closed on the table. And what we're gonna do is I'm gonna trim them now. You can see they don't quite fit together, which is normal from wood. So I'm gonna show you how that I trimmed all of the other ones that are already finished. You can tell, like if these are two leaves going together, it's gonna be beautiful. The grain matches up really nice. Join them in a little bit. We're gonna have waist, so they're gonna get shorter this way slightly. And it's gonna look really nice. There'll be two matching panels. It's just going to be gorgeous. I'm just getting excited thinking about it. So in order not to mess up when I'm routing them, I have them labeled. And then A goes with A, easy enough. B goes with B. That just helps an old man remember how things go together. This is a really simple setup that actually works quite well. It's a piece of 5" by 1/2" aluminum. I have it labeled down here top face. So when I'm running on this piece, I know which side's the straight edge of the aluminum. I have it clamped down. I got a couple of little scarf pieces, extra pieces that are the same thickness holding on the end. The only problem with this is you run into your clamp, which it's not the end of the world because I swapped out the two clamps on the outside, which will allow me to finish the straight edge. We're using the Festool router, so I simply put it on the side of the rail here. That's really all there is to it. And that piece is ready to be assembled when the other edge is cut. So I had to do that 3 more times, and then we'll do the glue up of these edges. I'll show you how we do that. You can see how nice it came out. It's actually kind of looks like it's already been glued together, but it hasn't. So really makes a difference when you straight edge everything and put it together, and then the veneer is basically book matched. So now the process is going to be to glue these edges together, and I use a West system with the slow hardener so that it saturates into the wood really good. But the little trick is flip the panels over upside down when I glue them with plastic on the table so they won't stick to it, and then weight them from the back side. I put all these little weights on it to keep them flat and then parallel clamp them. So you don't want to really have all the weights on your front part to damage it, or it'll show up in the finish. So I'm going to get set up for that, glue them together, show you the process of that. Okay, what I did already is I wet both ends on this, both edges. And I'm just going down now and just applying just a little bit more down into the seam. I want to do it while it's still relatively close together. You don't need this edges so tight and it fits so well that you don't need a ton of epoxy in there. And what's going to happen, even with just putting a little bit on the back side like this and working it down into the seam, it's going to come out on my face. When it goes through the thickness sander, it should all come off just fine. But just a little bit, because just brushing it on the edge, I just want a little bit more assurance that there's plenty in there. So now I just push them together. You just kind of move them back and forth a little bit, just to slide that glue, make sure you got it evenly coated. Now you notice this, because this is part of the leaf, there's no glue in the center seam, obviously. Okay, now here's the trick. Because you don't want this to lift up, kind of work, you want to keep the seam together. With all these little 5-pound weights, spacing them out appropriately. So I put the record clamps across the top of them. Got all the record clamps on. We put these little cross pieces in, just to hold the clamp above the surface of the epoxy. Of course, you set it down like that. And then you see all the weights are on there, they're going to hold it flat. And what I need to do is take a second and go down and wipe all the excess epoxy out off the top. Alright, so now the excess epoxy is wiped off. I'm just going to take this block, tap the seams down, and make sure they're nice and level. It feels really nice everywhere. So the next stage, as soon as this glue is dry enough, which should be a couple hours, we'll put biaxial cloth on these. I'll show you how we do that. Okay, so what I'm doing now is we're going to laminate the two folding leaves together. And that's pretty much going to make these leaves ready for molding. So what I'm doing is I'm putting, the leaves are slightly oversized. I'm doing 2 layers of biaxial cloth. So you can see I wet the plywood out first, and then I put the layer on. And again, you got to get all the white spots out. You'll notice I cut the cloth pretty close, pretty tight to the size of the panel. It has a tendency to stretch when you put it on. Like I said, the panels are oversized, and I don't want a whole bunch of cloth hanging out all over the place when I have to take them apart. So this works pretty well. Now we need more resin. Now if it looks like I'm putting a lot of resin on, that's okay, because we're going to put another sheet of cloth right on top of this one. Now because the grain has to go a certain way on the table, they're labeled as well. So they have plastic all over the tape and plastic all over the other side, so the resin won't completely ruin the wood. Taped out well, and then they were labeled because I wouldn't be able to see how to put them back together if they weren't properly labeled. Now I'm going to let that one soak a little bit more. And then I'm taking an air roller, rolling this down nice and firmly. We all like it when it's good and firm. Now I got a couple of spots that look a little white. Put a little bit more product in there. Let that soak while I roll the other one out. Okay, that looks nice. Now it's the second layer of biaxial cloth. So this one is B and this one's A. Obviously it's like anything else, you're doing Elmer's glue or wood glue or whatever, coat both sides. If this has got a little bit of moisture on it, put it on top of the other one, we'll have a good permanent bond. Okay, so now we're going to take this off, set it right on top of B, making sure that the letters are going the same way. Just to confirm again, it's A and A. And you can see how easily that slides. Real easily. The pin nails are so small and soft. When I put the weight on it, it's not going to stop it from compressing. Like if you were to put a screw or something in, it would only compress as much as the screw is in there. So that wouldn't be very good. Okay, I'm just double making sure the camping board doesn't stick to my bottom board. Put another piece of plastic on this. Now it's just the heavy work. All of these weights have to go on top of here. Now a vacuum bag would be nice, but something in between just likes 1,000 pounds of weight and a couple of camshafts. Alright, well that's a little over 2,000 pounds of weight moved. Squishing out really well, and we're going to have a really nice layout. We've got the slow hardener in there, so it's going to take a while to cure. We're going to call this the end of part 1, and you're going to have to subscribe to see part 2. Hopefully, when we're putting the table back on the boat, we won't have to float it back in place. We look forward to seeing you all next time. Stay tuned on the De Bergerac channel.